Good evening. Over my 30 odd years of international mountaineering and climbing, I've not always gone for the top of the peak. In 2014, I went to climb Mount Kenya, and I went for Point Linana, not the actual true summit of the mountain. I went for the trekking peak. And why was that? Quite simply, I knew my technical ability. Frostbite had caught up with me, my injuries, my age, everything said to me, go and trek, Nigel. This is not a mountain you can easily climb. And I've always accepted my capabilities. Yes, I push myself, but there are times to say enough is enough. I was overjoyed that I'd planned this trip with a very good friend of mine, and we were going to climb the peak together. But tragically, at the last minute, they had to pull out and I was forced to travel alone. Now, don't get me wrong, I've travelled the world solo many times, but when you get excited about having company and it really is a good friend and they can't join you, it's disappointing. But that's the way life is. Mount Kenya stands towering above the savannah, refreshing them with her mountainous, ice-ridden waters and beautiful flora and fauna that changes as you climb. The giant lobelias, the sunbirds and such. It's magical. It's something that you truly need to see and behold. And the weather was, as ever, mountainous. And you think Kenya, you think of lions and savannah and safaris. You don't think of driving snow, rain, blizzards, high winds. And that's exactly what I got. But then again, in mountaineering, what should I expect? The path of love is never easy. It's never a beautiful straight line. It's usually really nice sweeping curves, but that's for another story. But everything was thrown at me on Mount Kenya, and still my love and passion took me to the top, and I saw the most beautiful sunrise sandwiched between the clouds, only for a few minutes, but sometimes that's all you're allowed to see. And I returned back down the mountain on my own with the local team and sat a very peaceful but lonely day or so at the base, looking back at her, reflecting on the tremendous time we'd had together. To friends. And this is my love letter to Mount Kenya. Dear Linana, from a distance you stand so alone, so cold and so dramatic. The savannah that surrounds you burns under the heat of the sun, yet little seems to warm your shoulders. You are kind enough to cool the arid plains with refreshing spring water, which tumbles vertically down your bogs to settle the dusts below. Politically, you've had your issues, but your allure is unaffected. You bring an Arctic feel to Africa and occasionally allow your diamonds to form in full, astounding every viewer with their icy gleam. A few lucky souls are allowed to ascend them, but I'm afraid I lack the necessary balance and poise these days. What's left of my digits can only serve me so much and allow me to go so far. The weather was dreadful as I approached closer to you. Rain fell with such vigour that even the sunbirds looked drab. But the dew of the giant lobelia shone like your own gems. Torrents ran down your face, followed by ice and snow as I climbed higher. It all seemed a fantasy, as we were so equatorial, and I could not feign what stung my eyes. Thankfully, within a few hours, you allowed the sun's rays to beam down and dry my dripping garments. I looked up to see the clouds part and reveal your regal head and shoulders. You look so daunting, with a thick plastering of snow adorning your face. It held a brilliant shining with piety and virginity. I had to have you. Celebrations were all around, and so I made my approach a quiet one. Stealth allowed little attention to be paid towards my advances, and I waded through your pure, driven snow until the sun rose and cast my long shadow before me. By then I was close enough to see you raise the delicate white veil, revealing your face and your dazzling eyes lighting up the crimson sunrise. The speed of this change really shocked me. You seemed such a completely different soul close up, more beauty than any man could imagine. The air was thin, but it wasn't the lack of oxygen intoxicating me. It was your aura. Care had to be taken at this point, as I noticed your two taller siblings rise from the clouds behind me. I feared what they would say, but neither passed comment, happy with the daunting position that their faces held. My dearest Lenana, we shared but a few precious minutes together, hand in hand, as our icy breathing clouded before our eyes. I was forced to return then to my own land. Neither of us wanted to take our hands apart, but we both knew that only a brief moment in this world was going to be ours. I looked back at you repeatedly as the distance grew between us and waved until the ice faded and the tall trees obscured our view. Within a day I was alone again, sat solitary before a roaring fire. The room next door held 2 beds, but only one was to be filled that night. Good night.